Hello everyone, this is Malki Assad and welcome to this short tutorial about verifying authorship. After all the hard work you've done, from data collection to analysis and manuscript writing, your paper is submitted and you're receiving this form to verify your authorship. I want to note that the author submitting the paper will not receive this form because they fill the same information during the submission process, but all the other authors will receive this form, usually through email. You click on the link and this screen will appear. Another thing is that journals differ in the details of the information included in this form, but generally they follow similar guidelines. This form is from the journal Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery, and we'll go over how to fill this form. The first question in this form, they ask you if you agree to these terms, and you have to click I agree. But let's go quickly over these terms. Retained rights, which means the copyright now will be transmitted to the journal. You agree that this work is original and it does not have information from other articles, so there is no plagiarism. It's your responsibility to make sure that the authors fulfill the criteria of authorship, which means they have contributed to the work and they agreed to the information inside the work. You agree to remove any preprints from electronic servers, and that you agree that you haven't violated any laws or rights. You agree to disclose any conflict of interests, and if you agree, you just click I agree. In many of these questions, you don't have an option other than to agree. If you want to submit to the journal, if you don't agree with the terms, you can withdraw your paper, but make sure before you click I agree to read all the instructions to make sure you don't violate them. The next question asks about if you or your institution received any payment in support of this work. If you say yes, and you can read the details of what they define as payment, because it's not only money you receive, it can be money in support of travel or money in support of reviewing a paper or giving a talk. So just make sure that you don't have any of these criteria here. They will ask you how many times you received payment, and they'll ask you, is it paid to you, to your institution, and give the name of the entity. I want to click no. And if you don't have any additional payments, just leave this box blank. The next question asks about whether you have financial relationships, because you might have financial relationships that are not directly in relation to the submitted work. And one thing to be careful about is that they ask about financial relationship for this journal up to 36 months prior to the submission. Some people think that we had relationship a year ago, but now we don't. So they don't disclose that. But this journal defines 36 months as the time period. So make sure you read, especially if you have any financial relationships with companies or private sectors, that you follow the rules in this form. One thing that people misunderstand is that if they have financial relationship, they can't submit papers. That's not correct. You can still submit the paper, but you have to disclose all your disclosures, and reviewers and readers have to be aware about that. Again, here, you can click no if you don't have any. If you have any financial relationships, just click yes, and it will take you the same form that we just showed. We'll ask about the number, paid to your institution, and the details. Any additional relationships? If you have any relationships, you disclose that here. If not, just keep it blank. Again, any other relationships that may have influenced your work in the way you interpreted your data? If yes, click explain why. If no, you can go to the next question. Then it gives you some criteria about what can be defined as author's own work. Is it work you did for somebody else, or is it part of your government employment? And it goes over the same outline that we saw in the first paragraph, that you agree to give the journal the right of the article, and that it follows the outline of publication and the guidelines for publications. If you click agree, you can go to the next question. This one is about the publication of the work on online websites outside the journal. Because as we said, the journal now owns the paper. And this is generally the situation in non-open access journals. Generally, the open access journals, the authors own the article because they pay for the publication of the journal, of the article. But in this journal, for example, this is non-open access, so you don't need to pay for the publication of the paper, which makes the journal the owner of the paper. And there are certain guidelines, just make sure to follow them. For example, in this journal, they allow you to publish it on the institution or employer intranet, but it's in the preprint form and 2 months after publication. So click I agree. This is very important point, and make sure to read it, because some people think they can share, for example, their work on ResearchGate, and ResearchGate is an open access, everybody can see it, and this violates the form that you filled when you published your article if it wasn't open access. If it's open access, no problem, but if it's not, you can share your article with other people without having permission from the journal, especially on websites like ResearchGate, because everybody can access that. This asks about the public access policy. If your work did not receive any payment from these institutions, just keep it blank and go to the next question. This asks you is if this work is your own work, this is something that you did from support of your institution or your PI, or is it something you were hired to do or funded through government and part of your government employment? In this situation, it's for me author's own work. Any additional comment? I don't have any additional comments, so I just keep it blank and go to the next one. This covers the open access policy and it talks in details about that. Just I agree. This one asks if you're the person responsible to approve and complete this agreement, or otherwise had the approval to complete this agreement. So yes. This one asks you if you will be disclosing family disclosures and off-label use of drugs. And yes, I agree to disclose any if I have. And then it asks you if, do you have any family disclosures? Because sometimes you might not have financial relationships, but your children or your spouse or partner have. So if you don't have any, just click no other relationships. If any of your family members, you click yes, and you explain, as we showed previously, the number, the times, the amount of money, the institution giving the money. No other relationships. This one asks if you're using drugs or products that are not approved yet by the FDA. In your paper, if there is any mention of drugs that were not approved by the FDA, you have to report that here. My manuscript includes investigation use of drug or products and the status of disclosed, which means that you'll discuss in your paper that these drugs are not approved by the FDA and put a disclosure statement in your manuscript. But in my situation, I don't have any unlabeled investigations. After you click submit to publication, you will receive another screen saying your form has been submitted. Usually you want to receive another email. So just once you see that screen, that means your paper has been, your form has been submitted. That brings us to the end of this short tutorial. I hope it was helpful. If you like it, subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram and Twitter @Malki Assad. Thank you so much for watching and see you in future episodes.